Let's go back to World War II. At that time, a huge amount of clothing materials were being used to create military gear. This caused shortage of fabric, and this fabric shortage changed women's fashion forever. Skirts became shorter, sleeves vanished, and bare legs became the trend. While many clothing brands went out of the business, one brand, which was not even clothing brand, saw this as an opportunity amidst the chaos. This company aggressively marketed women's razor. At that time, it was hated by women. They didn't want to shave, and shaving itself was considered a masculine thing. Yet, against all odds, against the will of the women as well, this company succeeded to create $1 billion empire out of thin air. This brand was called Gillette, and even after 79 years since the war has ended, they still capture more than 60% of women's razor market. And not just that, they have more customers than their next two competitors combined. So the question is, how did they do it? How did they create a market out of thin air in a segment where women hated shaving? The answer lies in one of the most iconic marketing strategies, which is called fear-based marketing. In this video, I will break down how Gillette actually cracked this particular market, and I will give you the lessons you need to learn to ensure you also succeed if you are launching something new, something innovative like any AI products. To understand this, let's start in the 1800s. The clothing over that time was way more conservative. Long sleeves, long skirts, and high necklines covered almost everything. Shaving, that was kind of a man's thing. It was not even women, and they hated shavings. But in the early 1900s, trends started to shift towards sleeveless dresses, especially amongst the elite and urban women. Sensing this opportunity, Gillette launched in 1915 its first ever women's razor, Milady Decolate. At the time, these kind of razors were not common, so to sell these kind of razors, Gillette didn't started selling the features of these razors. Rather, they sold on fear. Let me explain what I mean. Their marketing campaigns introduced a new problem to women, which is underarm hair. They called it embarrassing personal issue and linked smooth white underarms to beauty and elegance. To amplify the message, Gillette launched the first great anti-hair movement. Their ads flooded magazines, with 90% of them targeting underarm hair removal between 1916 and 1920. This strategy worked, at least amongst the wealthy urban women, but Gillette wasn't satisfied with that. They wanted to sell to every single woman out there. To achieve this goal, they had to solve their two biggest problems. First was, women in 1920s wore stockings which were nylon based, and they covered the entire legs, just removing the need for shaving. And the second was the Great Depression. So during that time, luxury items were not something which people could purchase, and razors were considered a luxury items. So although Gillette had instilled fear and FOMO against not shaving, it was not sufficient for every single woman to be motivated to buy a razor. They had to wait for a decade, and then World War II happened, which changed everything for them.
The first cannon shot of the Second World War is fired.
As the war became, the nylon which was earlier used in stockings was now being used in parachutes for military personnel. This fabric shortage exposed bare legs for the first time, and sleeves vanished. Skirts became even shorter, and that's when Gillette's marketing, especially the fear-based marketing, went ballistic. So what happened was, without social media during that era, women had to rely solely on magazines to find and realize what is the latest fashion trends, or what is the news, what is happening around the world. These magazines became the most powerful weapon for Gillette. In 1980, Gillette launched a campaign called Just Whistle, claiming that smooth silky legs were the key to getting a man's attention. The subtext: hairy legs could mean rejection or embarrassment. Now listen to this part very carefully. By framing hair removal as a solution to avoid shame and embarrassment, Gillette convinced women that smooth silky legs were not just something of fashion, but it was essential. And this fear-based marketing was so successful that by 1964, 98% of American women were shaving regularly. How crazy is that? What Gillette did was not just marketing, it was actually cultural engineering. They convinced people that shaving was not just related to attractiveness, but it was a sign that you are a modern woman. And this strategy didn't just work during the World War II. Even after 100 years since the war, Gillette is still the market leader when it comes to women razor by dominating 60% of the market. And remember, this was a market which didn't even exist. Women especially hated shaving, and Gillette sold this to women. Their ability to tap into insecurities created $1 billion empire out of thin air. The same tactics is being used still on you and me. On a daily basis, we see 76 advertisements and we are being convinced to buy anything and everything even if we don't want to buy it. So before we wrap up, I would like to share 3 key lessons which you can take away from the story of Gillette and how they convinced women to shave. Lesson number 1, timing is everything. Gillette saw that women's fashion was changing and they launched the perfect product at the perfect time and marketed it beautifully. Now AI is doing the same thing with all of our lives, and there is a huge potential and opportunity for all of us. Lesson number 2, most of the times great marketing matters more than a great product. There were so many razor players, but Gillette was the one who were able to tap into the insecurities. They were able to get to the women and launch the best product and reach out to them and tell them what women were missing out. Lesson number 3, consistency is key. Gillette had launched their first razor in 1915, but since World War II, it took them decades to wait and create the market and constantly put their advertisements in the women's magazine, and one day they got lucky. So for us as well as business owners, it is crucial to ensure that we are consistent in whatever we are doing in any way we can. Thanks for watching, do subscribe and see you next time.